I've always agreed, at least I've always been very much fetched by the argument that the progressive feature of the income tax is against the idea of equal treatment under the law. And I think Hayek makes that point as eloquently as any philosophical economic point has ever made in his book, Constitution of Freedom. But to say that you're against the progressive income tax is really not to make the case against an income tax, is it?
No, we're against the tax in principle. The progressivity of it, of course, is bad, but the income tax is unnecessary. Again, something happened in the 20th century where the American people decided that there would be...
The 16th Amendment happened, yeah.
There's something happened where we have changed our attitude about what we want from our government. We've ushered in this overwhelming runaway welfare state that we cannot afford, and we've also become an American empire where we have troops around the world and we pay for the defense of Japan and Germany and everybody else. But at the same time, you had to have two ways of financing this. One we decided we'd have an income tax that we would start subtly and small, that would escalate to the point that it really is the biggest ripoff in the country, along with a Federal Reserve System that allows us to monetize.
That happened 65 years ago.
Well, I know, but since 65 years, we have seen the deterioration of this society that we love. I mean, the Libertarian Society is no longer with us because of these ideas.
Yeah, but in 1922, the top tax was 70%. Right now, it's 28%. So how can you say we have gone down a slippery slope where we're getting worse and worse?
Because the amount of tax coming out of the economy is still much greater. The amount of tax the government takes is over 40%. You know, when the Founding Fathers got sick and tired of the British tax and they had a tax of about 25%, the American people are rather complacent to put up with this. But more important...
Before you run away with that figure, let's remind our audience that in the first place it's not 40%, it's 39%. And the second place, 16 of it is by the individual states and localities. The federal tax is too high, but it's under 20%.
What did the indentured serf, what was he required to pay his master? 25%. And so we are a bit, we have enslaved ourselves. Not only are we enslaved through the tax system, but we're enslaved because we keep all the records. We don't keep the right records. Can you imagine this tax simplification bill that just came out? And if we don't learn those forms and do it right, we have a gun pointed at our head by the IRS and say, you're going to be put in prison if you don't learn to fill out those forms. How many times did they have to go through the W-4 form? I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous. We have to keep the information, then we have to turn it over to the government. We then set ourselves up for self-incrimination. Then we are guilty until proven innocent. They say, you owe such and such amount. We are guilty and proven innocent, and then we will go to jail and they confiscate money from our banks.
You got it a little bit wrong, Dr. Paul. Here's how it works. If the federal government, if the IRS contests your tax, the presumption is theirs.
Right.
But in any prosecution of you for a criminal trespass, the presumption is yours.
The IRS can come and confiscate our money very easily if they send us a bill and we don't pay it. If they send you a bill at the end of the year and say you did not pay $10,000 on taxes, you jolly well better prove that you don't owe it. Now, isn't that correct?
Yes, but if they charge fraud, then the presumption is yours.
Yeah, but if they send you a bill, it's up to you to hire your attorney and hire your accountants and spend a lifetime or many years of agony to prove yourself innocent with your records that you turn over to them. But back to the general principle, taxation is bad not only because the IRS, I think, is such a vicious organization, but because taxes is confiscation of wealth, because it isn't part of the American tradition. It wasn't what the Founding Fathers intended. It isn't what we had through the 19th century, and it's totally unnecessary in a libertarian society. It's only necessary if we want a government that's going to redistribute wealth and defend the American empire.
Hang on a sec. When it was ruled in Marbury versus Madison that the power to tax is the power to destroy, and the right of the state to tax the federal government was removed, it was done by somebody who was, as a young man, around in Philadelphia when the Constitution was formed. Now, those people didn't say, there shall therefore be no tax. They said really that tax policy has to be made with reference to constitutional principles. Now, it wasn't for 120 years after that before they could have an income tax, so we were sliding in that direction from about 1900 on. But I seem, in your literature, to be reading as though America was founded on the assumption that there would be no taxes.
No, I don't think I said that at all. I said there'd be no income tax. You know, there's been taxes early in our history. We had taxes in the 19th century, but they were very minimal, and the people paid them, and there were excises, taxes, and tariffs, and a few things to manage the minimal government that we had and that we wanted. But now that we endorse the welfare warfare state, it is absolutely necessary to have an income tax in order to finance it, and even that isn't enough. $220 billion deficit last year by conservatives. I mean, there's something wrong going on here. That's why they need the Federal Reserve System in order to monetize all this debt as well.
Well, there's a lot. Well, you don't have to monetize the debt as long as you have foreign capital willing to take it up. Remember that?
They do monetize a bit of it too, but what happens when Japan quits buying our debt, which they probably will soon, and then there's going to be a monetary crisis on top of a stock market crisis.
When that happens, you can run for office again and be elected.
Matter of fact, it might come before November, so watch out.